Alright, got a battle here against a Sun team today. Now, dealing with Sun is actually a pretty straightforward process. It's pretty much just keeping Tyranitar alive for Sandstream, and hopefully getting up Stealth Rock throughout most of the match, because Sun teams tend to have a lot of Fire-type attackers that are pretty vulnerable to Stealth Rock. So I'm going to lead off with a Tyranitar as he goes with a Claydol, and I'm going to protect the rocks on turn 1 and go for a Crunch, which is going to do a lot of damage. Not really any point in setting up my own rocks right now because Claydol does carry Rapid Spin, and I actually don't have a spin blocker, so it's not really going to be able to help me out on that aspect. And he's going to go out into his Porygon. I'm going to go into Latios because I was going to scout for a Ground-type stab and hopefully finish him off with Surf or something like that. And he has Eviolite, so I'm not going to be able to one-hit KO it even with a Specs Draco Meteor. And I really don't want to deal with an Ice Beam, so I'm going to go back into Tyranitar, which deals with Porygon pretty well, except I'm not going to be able to KO it right now. So I'm going to switch into the Ice Beam and just get off rocks. And he does have the Claydol, which is still alive, but it's pretty weakened now, so I'm not too worried about it. He goes for a Thunder Wave, but Tyranitar doesn't really mind Paralysis. It's one of the 2 members on my team that don't really mind being paralyzed, the other being Skarmory, of course. And now he goes for the Ice Beam again. I'm not really sure why he's bothering to stay in, though. So I'm going to get off one more Crunch just to weaken him. I'm not going to be able to one-hit KO since he's actually that bulky. Okay, and now I'm going to go into Deoxys. This is my Life Orb attacker again, and I switch into the Ice Beam. It's going to do a decent amount of damage, not too much because Porygon's not that strong, but Deoxys is pretty frail also. So I was going to go for a Life Orb superpower because I was hoping that would finish him off, but he actually switches out and goes into his Firefox, which everyone seems to use as a nickname for their Ninetales. So he switches into Stealth Rock and takes the Superpower. I don't quite KO, even though Superpower is at 120 base power, so I'm going to want to save Deoxys for later if possible. Might be useful for later in the match. And I'm going to go into Tyranitar, switch up the weather again in my favor, and hopefully switch into either a Fire Attack or a Will-O-Wisp because I'm already paralyzed anyway. So he's going to actually go out again and go into his Claydol. And I'm pretty sure he's going to Rapid Spin, so I'm just going to stay in. I will get rocks off the field, or get my rocks off the field, unfortunately, but I will be able to KO him, which means I'll be able to set them up again later at a different point in the match. So, not too bad for me. I do get rid of his Claydol, which is nice. And now he's going to go into a Shift Tree, and I wasn't really sure what he was going to have. I wanted to scout for a possible Low Kick, so I went to Skarmory just to watch for that. And he actually goes for a Solar Beam. I don't know if he forgot that he didn't have Sun up anymore, or just didn't realize that Solar Beam doesn't exactly work in Sandstorm. But yeah, that's a pretty bad move on his part, and it means a free turn to set up spikes for me. Because of course I'm quad resistant to Solar Beam, so it really won't do anything to me. So yeah, I'm thinking next turn he might be using HP Fire because a lot of Grass-type sweepers on Sun teams tend to carry that just for coverage purposes. And I'm going to go back into Tyranitar just to scout for that. I'm pretty sure he doesn't have Low Kick, or else he would have used it on my Tyranitar earlier when I switched to Skarmory. So he does reveal his Hidden Power Fire, and I'm glad that I didn't get Skarmory hit by that. Although I doubt it would have KO'd because I'm running some special defense investment. So now he's going to switch out again, and I'm just going to get up rocks on the switch because I'm pretty sure that his Shift Tree doesn't have anything that can hurt me that badly. And of course, rocks are pretty important because I've gotten rid of his Claydol, and they're going to put a lot of pressure on the rest of his team. I'm going to go back into Deoxys S right now. I initially meant for it to be kind of like a sack, but he actually goes for recovery instead, so I don't really get to sacrifice it. And it looks pretty obvious that I'm going to go for a Life Orb superpower on this turn, but just in case he switched, I go for an Ice Beam instead. I was hoping to catch something on the switch. I don't remember exactly, but there was something on his team that was definitely weak to Ice Beam. Oh yeah, it was Venusaur, so I was thinking that he might actually go to Venusaur on the superpower because I would have died in one turn anyway. He ends up just recovering anyway, but it's not too important because it was just one attack anyway. But that Porygon is going to be kind of problematic for my team, so I'm just going to have to go for my emergency strategy of tricking it with Choice Specs. Unfortunately, that means I'm going to have to sacrifice my Latios, and I would have preferred not to do that because I'm not exactly so happy about losing my most powerful attacker, but it's probably the only way I can deal with Porygon, so good thing I managed to cripple it in some way. It's going to be a lot easier to take care of now that he's tricked with a Choice Item. And I'm just going to go for another round of spikes here, just getting up some more layers. He goes for an Ice Beam. Turns out I actually do outspeed him, so that's pretty useful to keep in mind for later. So yeah, I'm pretty much going to stay in and keep roosting off the damage while I get off some more spikes. I'm trying to go for all 3 layers because that'll really help to put a lot of pressure on his team. And of course, Ice Beam won't do anything to me because I'll roost off my flying type. So it's not really going to do much to me, and Sandstorm is wearing him down over time. I'm going to predict a switch now because Ice Beam really isn't doing much to me. And good thing I did because he switches back into his Shift Tree, and that's going to get hit by a Brave Bird. Plus, with all the hazards, it's going to be KO'd pretty easily. So yeah, I do get rid of his Shift Tree, which is pretty useful. He's going to go back into his Porygon 2 now. And initially, I thought he was actually going to use an electric type move because Porygon does typically carry Thunderbolt or maybe Discharge. So I was thinking about switching into Garchomp and outspeeding him since I'm Scarfed. But since I realized that Skarmory actually outspeeds him too, I just went for the Roost just in case he went for a prediction. And I'm really glad I did because he actually goes for the Ice Beam. So if I ended up switching to Garchomp, I probably would have been KO'd by that Specs Ice Beam. So yeah, really glad I did that. And I'm just going to get up 1 layer of spikes. I think I'm at 3 layers of spikes, and I've got Stealth Rock up now. So yeah, he's going to be under a lot of pressure when he's switching around. So I'm just going to get off a couple more roosts. I just realized this part of the battle is actually really repetitive, so sorry for that. But yeah, he's going to be switching out in a couple turns anyway, so don't worry about that. And he's going to go for 1 more Ice Beam, of course. Not really much to say about these couple of turns. The Sandstorm is wearing him out of HP though, so that's going to be weakening him as well. And I'm going to go for a final Roost as he goes for Ice Beam. The next turn, he's actually going to realize that he's not going anywhere and going to switch out. And I'm not really sure why he decided to right now of all times, but I guess he just ends up switching anyway. So he's going to take out his Porygon 2 and go into his Charizard. And I actually went for a Brave Bird here because I was just planning to finish off his Porygon. But instead I hit a Charizard, and normally it wouldn't do too much, although it's not that bad because it's at 120 base power. And I don't quite KO him after Stealth Rock, but it is enough for the Sandstorm to bring him down to 0 health. So that's pretty good. The next couple of turns are pretty much going to be a lot of his Pokemon dying to entry hazards. So first he goes into Porygon, and of course the hazards take that down. And now he goes into Ninetales, and of course with Stealth Rock and triple spikes up, that's going to go down as well. So yeah, you can really see that after all those hazards, he's really on the losing end. So now he's going to go into his last Pokemon, which is Venusaur. And I'm predicting a Sleep Powder because basically every Venusaur runs that move. So I'm going to go into Tyranitar, which is paralyzed, so Sleep Powder won't really be doing anything. And I'm just going to go and Crunch. Sludge Bomb is his best move because the only Grass-type move he has is Solar Beam, because it's designed to be in Sun. So yeah, I'm just going to go for that Crunch, and that is going to wrap up the game. So yep, good game.